I'm Armand Diaz for the NCGR board, and I am talking today in our our premiere In Conversation With series. I'm talking with Catherine Urban, a fantastic astrologer located in the Cleveland area, yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you actually got started, well, you were in New York for a while.
Yeah, I was. That's kind of where I got, that's where I figured out that this could be like a full-time passion, lifestyle of astrology. So yeah, I got started in New York and brought it back home to root it down.
That's great. That's terrific. And speaking of rooting things down, you have recently authored your astrological cookbook.
Yep.
I've tasted some of the delicious things that are in here, and congratulations. That's quite an accomplishment getting a book together. How did you do that?
Thanks so much. So yeah, I've been writing the horoscopes for Bon Appetit for it's probably been 2.5 years now. And so Simon and Schuster actually reached out to me because they were looking to do an astrological themed cookbook. They make a lot of cookbooks. So they reached out to me because I seem like a good person to do that. And lucky for them, I am good at writing and writing a lot. And I love projects. So I said, sign me up. And yeah, I actually had to write this in a very short period of time. They wanted me to have all the text done in only 3 months. So so I had to go to my boss at my muggle job and say, hey, I need to cut my hours to make some magic happen. So
Wow, that's
luckily
terrific. 3 months. That is fast. We know you're a great writer, of course, because you are a regular columnist in NCGR's member letter, where you write the Golden Apple Chronicles. Always fantastic. Always wonderful column. It's a real favorite of mine. I look forward to reading it, and also you're a good writer. You don't require a lot of editing, which I really appreciate too.
Thanks.
Where did your inspiration come? How do you know that as a Leo, I like to have chickpeas and curry, which I do?
Yeah. So basically, every food has an elemental or planetary property. And so basically what I did in choosing recipes was I chose foods that both had affinity with each astrological sign. So, spicy foods go with the Mars ruled signs, Aries and Scorpio, and Leo needs some sunny foods. So I did a lot of orange and lemon, citrus things, because we go by color too. And so I did that, but then also the balancing. So, for example, like air signs need foods that really ground them. So root vegetables and things like that. So I combined both taking foods that have affinity, but also balance.
Wow, that's a good strategy, and it works really, really well. I looked through and I made a few of the Leo dishes, and then I looked for my Cancer moon, and oh boy, yeah, gee, that comfort food thing. And I don't really understand that there's any other type of food besides comfort food. The Cancer moon is just oh yeah, comfort food. What is there something else? But boy, that really hits it right on there. And you were like, well, I'll have a lot of carbs, pastas, and rice and cream.
Oh yeah, and like picnic foods. That was some of the inspiration for Cancer.
Really, really terrific book. So I know I saw you in New York where you were promoting it, and you had a book signing party and so on. So it's an exciting thing, and it's something you have Simon and Schuster to come and ask you to write something. That's impressive.
Yeah, definitely an honor. And that was really fun. And I'm glad you came out to the book signing, because I was able to, a lot of astrologers came out and was able to feed people astrological theme recipes, and people were hanging out. Food brings people together. So that was really nice.
So where's your moon?
My moon is in Scorpio.
Oh.
Yeah, but I'm a Cancer rising. So that's where it comes in.
Okay, that's all right then. No, just asking,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you have a Scorpio moon. You've told me too much already.
Exactly.
You just
Exactly.
divulged too much there. So
Yeah.
here's a question I have for you. You've written a book. You're past your Saturn return, if you don't mind my. It's
Yeah, just by a little bit here. We're coming up on 30 degrees of separation, so that's good.
you're getting your new Saturn cycle started. Then
Yeah.
so it's a good way to get going with it. So you're very involved in NCGR. You're very involved in the local association, right? The Lake County Association. I was
Mhm.
just say Lake Country. It's Lake County Association.
Yeah.
So here's a question that I have, you know, as president of NCGR, this sort of thing comes up. What gets you involved in an organization and organizations? And we got some challenges getting in younger folks and getting them involved in terms of membership. What is it for you? How does that work, and what do you see in that?
That is interesting, and I do notice that I kind of stand out in that way a little bit. I don't know. I just me personally, like I have Capricorn on my seventh house. I enjoy the company of people who are wiser than me, and a lot of times that is older than me. I have always felt at home in the astrological organizations, because we're gathering together, and it's where synthesis of knowledge can happen, and it's like that. Just spending time with people, like you kind of start to, I don't know, just like having conversation about astrology is such a great way to learn and synthesize and apply material, as opposed to reading. And I, of course, love reading about astrology, but hanging out with people that speak your language really has been important to me. And yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram and all that too. And that's another great place where I think a lot of, not necessarily just younger people, but that's where a lot of younger people are kind of like finding their online community, their astrology community, but like in an online setting. And for me, just like being a Scorpio moon, as I've already divulged, um, for me, I get much more out of like the intimacy of like personal one-on-one connection, you know.
It really has great value. I think we recently had our conference in Baltimore, and I go to a lot of meetings of local groups, within NCGR and outside. And there's always such a great feeling. It's I'm on Facebook and social media a lot. We're doing this for YouTube.
Yeah,
It's not something that I don't do a lot of, but the nourishment that comes from actually being in someone's proximal space of there's an energetic exchange, and there's a dynamic that I just think it's just so important.
I agree. I agree. And it's important to share physical space with others, and specifically people who inspire you. So,
Do you think now, sort of like this is a little bit bad asking you, like sort of like, as a representative of young people, but do you think that there is a barrier for younger people to join organizations? Do you think that there's a sort of hesitation, a suspicion? Is it economic? Is it social? Is it they just don't know? Is it?
I've heard different things. I've heard people say that they don't want to spend the money, that kind of thing. I guess some people feel like it's a big ask. Some organizations charge a lot, and also for education. I've heard that, but I'm also someone who believes in investing in your education. That's just me. I have a lot of air in my chart. Um, so yeah, I've heard different things, and then I've heard the other term, gatekeeping. That's another one that gets thrown around, the younger generational dialogue. um and yeah, I mean, I think that maybe that used to be the case, but I think as you're kind of hinting to, like, there is a need for younger people to get involved. um for me, I was very involved with Lake County Astrological Association. That's our local chapter here in Cleveland, and we've been around for 47 years. So that is a dang long time for a local organization to be around. And so I've been really proud to be affiliated with them and supported by them. I served on the board for 3 years, but the biggest thing for me was the time commitment. And I know a lot of well, not everyone on that board, but the president, for example, is retired, so he has the time to dedicate to it. And me being someone who is pursuing astrology but also has, as I mentioned, a muggle job that supports me still, it was just taking up too much time. So I think for younger people, maybe it's a time thing.
Mm. Yeah, I could see it being a little bit of a time pressure. I mean, to be have like that level of involvement and so on. What I find sometimes talking to younger people, it's just anecdotally. When I joined the NCGR board, I heard a lot from it's great to have somebody who's younger on the board, and I'm 55. It's like at the time I was 55. Like, this is hardly representing the flower of youth or anything like that, but they were like, well, compare yourself over here. So I think that what I hear though a lot is that I think that there's a lot of information out there. You do not need to get information from anybody, through an organization. You don't need to pay anybody a dime to get the information because it's all out there. But to sort it out, to vet it, to know how to integrate it and so on, I mean, that does require a connection with people. That does require, there's a, the sort of an apprenticeship, internship type of sense to thing, I think. It's very hard to put information together into something coherent.
Yeah. And also, pre-internet, organizations provided the container for the community, and now there's just things like Astro Twitter where you don't have to wait for the monthly meeting or pay a monthly due, or whatever it might be, your monthly dues. But so people have that. So I guess the question is what broader purpose does organization serve? Like, what would entice people to get there and get involved? And one thing NCGR does is the conference and the publications, and that's really awesome. And then also the education program. So I mean, I got involved in astrology before, I guess Facebook was around, but it just like wasn't the main thing yet. Like by the time I was learning astrology, like you didn't have a chart, you couldn't pull up charts on your phone. Like iPhones weren't a thing when I got involved. So I just kind of plugged right in to NCGR, and I felt very supported by the structured education and the publications. And, I felt like that was so right for me, and it still is. But I'm wondering what are the organizations offering people that they can't
conferences are a great thing,
yeah.
But of course the thing is that you don't want to have yearly membership for the sake of going to a conference every couple of years, although in fact the discount at the conference would actually pay for your membership and more if you're going to go to the conference. It is a thing. I think publications require reading, and that's another time consumer. We do publish articles like yours that are much more than 240 characters.
Yeah. And it's legit. That's the thing. Not everything you read on the internet is true.
Well, you need, like the orgs do that. They vet the information. There's somebody's looking at it saying, okay, there's at least some factual in terms of the history of astrology, whether there's something going on here that you can, this isn't just somebody's, popping something straight out of their head, or if it's something popped out straight out of their head, at least we're looking at it and going, yeah, all right, this sort of works.
Yeah, I mean, there's definite advantages to both worlds, for sure.
Here's a question I have for you. Now, I believe that we have the same teachers, although I think some of my fellow students became your teachers and so on. What type of astrology would you say you practice?
Oh boy. So I can't really put myself into a category. I mean, I, of course, started with modern astrology. And then as I got, more up there in my knowledge, like learning horary and electional, I realized that my understanding of astrology was then insufficient. I needed to learn that Mars, Saturn equal bad sometimes. You know what I mean? And so I've spent like the last few years kind of weaving in and integrating more of a traditional approach. It's definitely a very popular branch of astrology right now, much thanks to Chris Brennan and his book and his podcast. And many others, but just like as far as younger people go, it's definitely the more popular branch of astrology right now. So I've been integrating that, but then I'm looking at my practice, and I'm like, no, I need to start reintegrating some of the more, let's say, metaphysical aspects, because that's more me. I've got Sun square Neptune, so it's been nice to integrate a lot of the traditional approaches and techniques, and a lot of them are so useful. But I don't know. I just feel like I'm starting to kind of branch back out to some of the more um, modern approaches.
Yeah, I also have Sun Square Neptune, and it is it is. I've always got like one foot in the other world, so it's more grounded. I remember uh, back in the late '90s, I mean, Robert Hand and a few others, the Project Hindsight folks and so on, like giving talks about traditional astrology and suggesting using whole sign houses and things like that. And at the time, it was really like, wow, nobody ever really thought about that seriously. And I think Chris's work is at least a turnaround point. There's sometimes like things sort of build up and they reach in this case, a person or a school, and then from there it sort of fans out. He's done so much to really, he's done so much to really make it accessible. On
Yeah.
top of everything else, because he really does present it in a really accessible kind of way. As much as he goes deep, he's also getting you in there. So that's been the thing. I know traditional astrology is, but then evolutionary astrology is such a thing too. I'm eclectic actually. There's no.
Yeah, I would say I am too. I love evolutionary astrology. That was the branch I was kind of searching for. Yeah, I love working with the nodes, and I love the viewpoint that the entire chart is karmic. The entire thing.
I mean, I think you come in with the chart. I mean, it's something randomly placed. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Here's a
Yeah.
question for you. What house system?
Placidus.
Well,
Yeah.
satisfactory.
What about you? What about you?
Coke.
Ah,
But
yeah.
I was influenced by dreams that told me to use the Coke system. Not not
There's
not, but yes, that was
there's your Sun square Neptune.
that's it exactly. Is that I had weird dreams, and I was always trying to figure out what the astrological correlation to these very specific types of dreams were, and it turned out the sun was always going over a Coke house cusp sometime over this.
Whoa, that's awesome.
But I asked because so many people are doing whole sign houses or equal signs, which I always feel is a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like if you if I was living in Finland, for example, like maybe the Placidus house system wouldn't work for me, but where I live and the predominance of clients that I see at this similar latitude, or I do have a lot of clients I've read for in that were born or live in different parts of the world. But for the most part, I haven't run into a whole lot of charts where I do need to use something other than Placidus. Every once in a while, I'll get someone at a really high northern latitude where I'm like, I got to use something else. But I've played around with other house systems, and Placidus just really works for me. So,
Well, I mean, I think and this is, for me, the thing is, it's the resonance thing. One of those systems is going to resonate with you for whatever. I mean, you can understand the difference between the way the house systems are constructed. You probably should understand. You probably do understand it, since you are, in fact, an NCG or PAA level 4 certified astrologer. But which is another congratulations. I know that
Thank
was
you.
the ceremony at Baltimore there. You know, you can understand it in many different ways, but I think that eventually one of them just resonates with you, and you just find it working. You know, that's the other thing.
There's many paths up the mountain, as they say.
There are. Thanks so much for talking to us today, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Armand. This has been really fun, and here's to many more.